Stability. The Big 12, is it more stable than the SEC and the Big 10? And before I even unpack that question, because it's very blunt, Robbie, give me your unabridged yes or no.
Is it more stable than the Big 10 or the SEC? That's a great question.
The reason the ACC is not included here is because that one's an objective yes.
So, like, there's a lot of ways to unpack this. Like, what does stable mean? And stable for this league, and why the Big 12 was able to kind of, save itself after OU and Texas left is because a conference like the Big 10 and the SEC did not want to take them, and the Pac-12 was stupid enough to not take schools like Oklahoma State or Kansas or hell, even like an Iowa State. So in the terms of stability, no, I think the Big 12 is not as stable as the Big 10 or the SEC, just because I think the money that is there, and I also think just the pure name brands that are there. Is it more safe for a school like Rutgers or even a school like Vanderbilt? Like, hell, if they're just like, you know what, we're just going to kick these schools out. Like, it's not stable in terms of that. But I do think that those leagues are definitely more stable just because of the money, the resources, and just like who is exactly there.
Stability and depth. I see a lot of stability and depth. And the Big 12 doesn't have a Vanderbilt. The Big 12 doesn't have a Rutgers who was good, or a Northwestern who was good, or a Purdue. You kind of go down the list of these Big 10 teams, especially in the Big 10 West, that just haven't been very good at football aside from one-off years. In the Big 12, you can say, oh, well, what if Cincinnati is your Vanderbilt? Well, Cincinnati went to the college football playoff a couple of years ago, and BYU won double-digit games a couple of years ago and had a number 2 overall quarterback go in the draft. And, UCF has a claimed national championship and is recruiting their ass off right now. I mean, there is stability in the depth of the conference, and the only team you can point to and really say, hey, they haven't been good in a little bit, is Arizona State. Outside of that, everybody, even Baylor, who was 3-9, won there's a reason I have the hat on. They won the Sugar Bowl in 2021 with Dave Aranda. So there is a league where you don't have the one team, the two teams, the three teams that you're going to beat every year. In the SEC, it's a myriad. I mean, A&M's kind of become that, where everybody expects, if you're a legitimate team in this conference, a top 5 team, you're going to beat A&M. You're going to beat Auburn. You're going to beat Mississippi State and Arkansas and Vanderbilt. And in the Big 10, with the addition of 4 teams out west, there's something to that as well. I mean, they're bringing in the USC and Rutgers playing in November in the Northeast. To me, is less stable than what the Big 12 gives you.
Well, what does that mean to you? Like, stable is in like they're going to get uneasy and try to leave, or like stable is like what? Like, how does that make it unstable though? It's
almost, and I know that culture is often qualitative. And we can't make the numbers argument because the gap in the money is so deep. But from a culture standpoint, this conference just has the upward trajectory right where it needs. They have it all figured out. It feels like the Big 12 has it all figured out. Brett Yormark knows what he wants to do, where he's going to go, and it makes sense. The 4 new teams he added from out west, they make sense as the blue-collar brands that got left out and forgotten in the Pac-12, and they have something to play for and feel like they can contend in the Big 12. Whereas for a USC going to play Rutgers, that I don't think that makes sense in the realm of college football. Right? From a traditionalist standpoint, especially, that doesn't say stability to me. And maybe that is more of that's just how my tummy feels today. There is a little bit of that to this. I can't lie. There's not a number I can tap onto it. But to me, that doesn't scream stability.
So, first of all, I just want to give a disclaimer. Like, I love the Big 12, and it seems like I hate everything about it. Like, I work, for the people who don't know, I worked and covered for the Big 12 for about 4.5 years. And I've been the one who's I hate Oklahoma and I hate Texas. Yeah. But here's my biggest concern. I say all that. My biggest concern is that by the end of, let's say, the Big 12's new media rights deal with Fox and ESPN, let's say Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 every single year. And let's say they go to the college football playoff and make a national championship game and become a consistent winner. Let's say the SEC then knocks on the door, knock, knock, knock. Hey, we can give you even more money. We can give you exactly what you want because you have proved that you can do it at the biggest stage, just like Oklahoma and Texas did. That's where I don't think the Big 12 is stable, and where I trust the Big 12 is because they have Brett Yormark and a whole mess going on the East Coast of the country in the ACC. Yeah. So that's where I don't think the Big 12 is as stable, but where I think I can't believe I'm saying this might actually help the Big 12, but the Big 12 is a league with so much parity. I think it's very difficult for the league right now to have a consistent winner like that, to get relegated up to one of those leagues right now. And we've seen that over history. Like, how many of the past Big 12 title games have been between different teams? And now that we add completely new teams like to the league, and I don't know what it's going to look like. And that is the intrigue to it. But is that enough for it to be one of the best conferences in college football? I don't necessarily know.
I'm going to agree with you there. I don't think that it is. There's not a competitive nature between the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10 right now. There's not. And I can't sit here and make the argument that from a monetary standpoint, those leagues are in the same conversation, because it really is a power too. But where that can change is expansion from what's happening out east, and also consistent winning. Think about it, Clemson. Clemson was not a big brand in college football 15 years ago. Nobody cared. I mean, that was just the little brother in South Carolina. And that the way that changes is consistent winning. This random program starts consistently winning. I say random, they have won championship in the 90s. So if you can replicate that with a Kansas State, if you can replicate that with somebody in the Big 12, you there? Somebody in the Big 12, then you're in business. Let's go there next. The expansion conversation. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. I hire an intern every semester. I like to go and say, hey, can you do some social media stuff? Because I don't like to do all the social media stuff. So at Game Time, that's where you buy your tickets. At FanDuel, that's where you make your bets. And at LinkedIn Talent Solutions, that's where you make your hires. And in the new year, it's easy to make a hire. They're not just another job board. 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires, just like Game Time's #1 and FanDuel's #1. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and they might not have the time or the resources to hire, so they want to help you make it a quick, intuitive, and easy process. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Keep in mind, terms and conditions do apply.